Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking into a case that really shook a lot of people. The 2022 Idaho college murders.
Yeah, a deeply disturbing event. The brutal stabbings of four students up in Moscow, Idaho, back on November 13th, 2022. It definitely caused a lot of fear and, well, a nationwide search for answers.
We're talking about four University of Idaho students, right? Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, all killed in their off-campus house.
That's right. And our goal here really is to kind of distill the key facts, get to the core of what we know about this very complex situation.
Okay, so let's start with the victims themselves. Give us a sense of who they were.
Well, you had Kaylee Goncalves and Madison Mogen, both 21 seniors. They were actually lifelong friends, which makes it even more heartbreaking.
Yeah, inseparable, I read.
And the other two?
Xana Kernodle, she was 20, described as having this really vibrant spirit. She was dating Ethan Chapin, also 20.
Ethan Chapin. He was a triplet, wasn't he? And involved in a fraternity. That's right, a triplet.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he'd recently joined Sigma Chi, so, typical college students, lives full of promise.
So what were they doing that night, November 12th?
Well, from what we know, Kaylee and Madison had been out at a local spot, the Corner Club Bar.
Yeah?
And Xana and Ethan, they were at a party at the Sigma Chi house.
And they all ended up back at the house on King Road later that night.
Yes. All four returned home in the early hours of November 13th.
And then the attack. The timeline seems incredibly tight.
It really does. Police believe it happened sometime between 4:00 and 4:25 a.m. An intruder, armed with what they described as a large fixed-blade knife, entered the house and attacked all four of them.
Just horrifying. And there were other people in the house.
Yes, that's one of the really unsettling parts. Two other roommates were home at the time on different floors, and they were unharmed.
Wow. And one of them, didn't she report seeing something or hearing something?
She did. It's a key part of the probable cause affidavit. One of the surviving roommates reported hearing sounds, maybe crying, coming from Xana's room.
Okay.
And then hearing a male voice say something like, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." She also described opening her door and seeing a figure clad in black, wearing a mask, walking past her towards a back door.
That must have been absolutely terrifying. And then the 911 call didn't happen for hours.
No, not until almost noon the next day, nearly 8 hours later. The call reported an unconscious person. That delay. Obviously, it raises questions and presents challenges for the investigation.
Yeah, you lose that critical window. So when police finally got there, what did they find?
A truly awful scene. The four victims had multiple stab wounds, and significantly, there were no obvious signs of forced entry.
No forced entry.
Ugh.
So how did the killer get in? That's still a question, I guess.
It's definitely one of the key questions investigators had to tackle. This whole thing prompted a massive investigation. You had the local Moscow police, Idaho State Police, even the FBI involved.
Poring over everything, I imagine. Surveillance footage, phone data.
Exactly. They were looking at everything. Cell phone pings, security camera footage from the area, and of course, forensic evidence from the scene itself.
And that's where the big break came, wasn't it? The knife sheath?
That was pivotal, yes. They found a tan leather knife sheath near Madison Mogen's body, and crucially, it had male DNA on the button snap.
DNA. So that's where the genetic genealogy comes in.
Precisely. And investigators used that DNA profile from the sheath. They ran it through forensic genetic genealogy databases.
Which is basically comparing it against public ancestry DNA databases, right? To find relatives.
Essentially, yes. It's a powerful tool. It allows them to build family trees based on potential relatives who've submitted their DNA to these public sites, eventually narrowing it down to a potential suspect. And in this case, it pointed towards Bryan Kohberger.
Bryan Kohberger, a 28-year-old criminology student.
Right, and studying for his PhD at Washington State University, which is, across the state line,
Right.
only about 8 miles from Moscow.
The proximity is striking.
It is. So once they had him identified as a potential match through the genealogy, they could investigate him more directly. Surveillance, looking at his car, his movement.
And that led to his arrest.
It did. He was arrested back home in Pennsylvania, visiting his family for the holidays on December 30th, 2022, then extradited back to Idaho.
And the charges are extremely serious.
They are 4 counts of first-degree murder plus 1 count of felony burglary. And the prosecution has already filed notice that they intend to seek the death penalty.
Okay, so arrest made, charges filed, but he pleaded not guilty.
Correct. He pleaded not guilty to all charges. So this is heading towards a trial, barring any unforeseen developments.
And the defense?
Yeah.
They have a strategy in mind.
They've indicated they plan to offer an alibi, potentially claiming Kohberger was elsewhere driving around at the time of the murders. They've also floated the possibility of an alternate suspect theory, basically arguing someone else did it.
So trying to point the finger elsewhere. That sounds like it could make the trial very complex.
Absolutely. It means the defense will be scrutinizing every piece of the prosecution's evidence and likely trying to introduce reasonable doubt by suggesting other possibilities.
And we've heard talk about possible delays. What's causing that?
Well, a few things. The sheer volume of evidence is one factor. The defense needs adequate time to review everything, thousands of pages of documents, hours of footage, complex forensic reports.
Right.
And then there's the issue of pretrial publicity. This case has received, intense media attention globally. There are real concerns about finding an impartial jury, so that could lead to delays, motions for a change of venue, things like that.
And there was also something about a gag order, people potentially leaking information.
Yes, there's been an investigation into possible violations of the gag order placed on the case. The judge put that order in place to limit out-of-court statements that could prejudice the case.
Because leaks could taint the jury pool.
Exactly. If confidential information gets out, especially information that might not even be admissible in court, it can make it incredibly difficult to ensure a fair trial. It undermines the whole process.
Stepping back from the legal side for a moment.
Yeah.
The impact on the university, on Moscow?
Yeah.
It must have been immense.
Oh, profound, just devastating for the students, the faculty, the entire community. Losing 4 young people like that so violently, it is hard to comprehend.
And they eventually tore down the house on King Road.
They did in December 2023. That was a difficult decision, I think, for everyone involved. Removing a physical reminder of the tragedy, but also erasing a piece of the victim's history.
But there's a memorial now on campus.
Yes, they established a memorial garden, a place for people to remember the victims, to reflect, and hopefully to find some measure of peace. It's called the Vandal Healing Garden and Memorial.
That's important. And, this whole case, it seems to have sparked wider conversations too, hasn't it?
Yeah.
About true crime media, maybe?
Definitely. It's reignited debates about the ethics of true crime coverage. How do you report on such tragedies responsibly? Where's the line between informing the public and, sensationalizing or exploiting grief?
Yeah, it's a tough balance. And the online speculation, that was huge in this case too. Misinformation spreading like wildfire.
It really was. It highlights a major challenge in high-profile cases today. You have this intense public interest, which is understandable, but it gets amplified online, often with rumors and completely inaccurate information getting mixed in with the facts.
Which can't help the investigation or the families.
Not at all. It complicates things for law enforcement, it's incredibly painful for the families, and it potentially jeopardizes the legal process we were just talking about. Finding that balance between transparency and protecting the integrity of the case is incredibly difficult.
So, just to sort of wrap up where we are, we've remembered the victims, Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan. We've looked at the chilling details of the crime scene, how the investigation unfolded with that key DNA evidence from the sheath.
Leading to Bryan Kohberger's arrest and the serious charges he's facing, we've touched on the legal complexities ahead, the not guilty plea, the defense strategy, potential delays, the gag order issues.
Right, and the ripple affects the impact on the community, the memorial, and these bigger questions about media and online information.
And, of course, as this heads towards trial, there are still so many unanswered questions. The defense's plan to potentially introduce an alternate suspect adds another layer of uncertainty to it all.
It really does, and maybe that's the final thought for you listening. When you look at all these moving parts, the complex forensics, the defense's strategy, the sheer level of public attention, what are the biggest challenges, do you think, in making sure justice is served and the trial is fair in a case like this? And what does it tell us about how crime, science, law, and public perception all collide today?